there, Vikings fans. You are listening to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle West. I am accompanied each and every week by Adam Carlson.
Well, maybe not every week. There was that one week, but
Well,
still.
yeah, we don't count that week.
I try to be here a lot.
Most of the time, we got Adam Carlson, and the other half of the time, I got Kyle Smith.
Hello, everybody.
And collectively, we are the Purple People podcast.
And Wild Stallions.
You betcha.
But I'd like to welcome you guys to episode number 177 of the Purple People podcast. I believe that number is correct. I am not sure, but let's go with it. This one is titled Gossip Gurley. You remember that show, Gossip Girl? I don't even know if that's still on. I don't think it is. Had like Blake Lively or something? I don't know.
I don't think it is.
No.
I, of all the references you give, this is the one that I know, and I feel ashamed.
I actually have never seen this program.
Never seen it, but I know that's the first one that I can say, yes, I've heard of it.
Yes.
Yes, Gossip Girl.
And I know Vikings fans love Gossip Girl, so that's a perfect reference for our audience.
We're full of timely references around here. It's what we do best.
Oh, yeah. But the gossip I'm referring to is going into the game between the Vikings and the Rams, and all the talk was about Todd Gurley versus Adrian Peterson. It was the headline on everything. It was all you heard. It was, is Adrian passing the torch to Todd Gurley? Is Todd Gurley the next big thing? Is Adrian washed up? Is all this stuff going on? And it's like, there are other players and coaches and stuff going on in that game too. But we'll talk more about the game in a little bit. Let's talk quick hits. My personal favorite quick hit is that Marcus Sherrills was named the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week for Week 8, and he deserves it. That return for a touchdown was real nice. I thought that was great, and it really helped spark the team.
He's a guy that we're always trying to kick off the team every year for some reason or another, but guess what? He's still here, and he's making plays at a high level for the team out there. So.
And I'll admit, I'm always one of the ones. It's like I don't see the spot for him on this team.
Yeah.
And every year he comes out and he just plays well enough to make you go, that's good. And then next year at camp, you kind of forget about some of those plays, and you're like, well, I don't see it again. And he proves us wrong again.
It's good motivation. He can never be lazy because he's always got to prove himself. I know every player does that every year. They got to prove themselves, but Marcus Sherrills especially has to prove that roster spot.
It's true, those fringe guys, and I'm actually starting to believe he's not a fringe guy anymore, so.
We should probably stop viewing him as that.
Yeah, it might be a good case. Mm-hmm. We got some sad news, though. Audie Cole's lost for the season after fracturing his ankle. The initial report was that his ankle was pointing the wrong direction, which is never good.
Yeah, that hurts.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that scene from The Shining, or not The Shining, but, oh my god, I forgot the name of the movie.
The scene from The Shining?
Misery. Had the wrong Stephen King book. The scene from Misery movie where Kathy Bates has the guy.
She breaks him with the sledgehammer with the piece.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Oh. But Audie Cole's been placed on injured reserve. His season's over. In his place on the roster, the Vikings signed linebacker Jason Trusnick. He's a 10-year veteran. If you want to know a lot more about him, Mr. Kyle West, I believe it is, or maybe Smith, I'm not sure which one, I didn't check, did some research on him and posted it up on the Facebook page, so go check that out. Meanwhile, we got some good news about the concussions that were suffered during Sunday's game from Teddy Bridgewater and Terrence Newman. Both players have already passed the first stage of their concussion tests and are on track to play against the Oakland Raiders on Sunday. They are going to need both these players if they want to go into Oakland and hope to come out a win.
That's good news. We'll talk about it more here in a little bit, but man, oh man, wasn't that a scary moment for Teddy.
Scary moment for both those guys. Concussions are never good.
No.
Chad Greenway awarded the Bridgestone Performance of the Week for Week 9. Now, Chad Greenway is an interesting case because a lot of people feeling he's missing a step, he's getting old, he's having trouble filling in. But Chad Greenway stepped in and played middle linebacker when Audie Cole went out. Chad Greenway played every single defensive snap of the game for the Vikings. Chad Greenway led the team in tackles with 10. Chad Greenway.
Awesome. He gets the free Bridgestone tires, we assume. We don't know. We've never fact-checked that. But I love Chad Greenway. And I expect, he's older. He's going to have his games that are maybe not so hot, but he's still going to be able to turn it on. And this was one of the games, where he was able to really turn it on for the Vikings.
Yeah, anytime you can step in and play at a high level, it's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings were already hurting at middle linebacker with Eric Kendricks out. When Audie Cole went out, they were down to their third option. And after the trade that saw Gerald Hodges go to San Francisco, that option wasn't there anymore. So Chad Greenway, who I believe was the fourth option when the season started at middle linebacker, stepped in and played a solid game. So, well done, Chad Greenway. Well done. Then we've got Adrian Peterson nominated for the FedEx Ground Performance of the Week for Week 9 against the Rams. I don't think he stands a snowball's chance in a very warm place of winning it, but I'll wish him luck.
He's nominated.
Yeah.
Count for something, right?
It's a chance, I guess.
Out of all the accolades that Adrian Peterson has, he probably doesn't care if he wins the FedEx Ground Performer for Week 9.
Hey, you never know. I know a lot of people don't say that they don't put a lot of faith into individual awards, and I know Mike Zimmer has said that there's only one individual award that he cares about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember what it was?
Super Bowl MVP. Best quote I've heard.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's got to be something to these guys when they win awards like Marcus Sherrill's winning the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. That's got to feel real good.
Oh, no doubt. I'm sure that does mean a lot to him.
And I'm sure at his age and with all the criticism that Adrian Peterson's been having, even being nominated, it's probably like, oh, that's cool. I like that. Speaking of Adrian Peterson, he now leads the NFL in rushing yards. He lost that title when the Minnesota Vikings had their bye week, but he caught up some ground. And, of course, there were also a couple injuries to other major running backs in the NFL that kind of helped him leap over that. But he's back on top for now.
Mm-hmm.
The final quick hit is one I don't even really want to read.
I'll do it.
I'll take. Yeah, I was about to say either one of us will take that over.
Yeah. Cordero Patterson is confused by his lack of touches. So there you have it, folks. He believes
that the Vikings should be manufacturing plays for him, and although he hasn't come out and said this that plainly, he has said that he feels that he has done enough to warrant a larger role with the Vikings, and that as soon as he gets that opportunity, he's going to take it. It was a lot of coach speak, a lot of kind of circling speech, the way that players are taught to say it. But as a fan, when you hear stuff like that from a player that you have almost thrown in the towel on if you haven't already, it's really frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's not entirely untrue what he said. I could see for maybe a little bit more of him wanting to get him some manufactured touches, but again, that's not really what our offense does, so I'm not super surprised for it. Like, you're a wide receiver, go be a big boy and run some routes and do some things correctly if you want to. See more playing time, Cordero.
Oh my gosh, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. You know who Cordero Patterson is for the NFL? He is a Kardashian.
Oh, no.
He doesn't get it. He doesn't live in the rest of the reality with all the other wide receivers who actually run routes and learn a playbook. Wow. I can't wait to get a hate message for saying that. I'm sticking by that.
I use this analogy far too often, but I think Cordero Patterson is like me when I went from high school to college. I never studied in high school, never really opened a book, never had to do any of the extra credit, went through the honor society, all that kind of stuff. Got to college and I just got my butt kicked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to change everything, my whole way of approaching everything. And I really believe that Cordero Patterson is that talented that he hasn't had to put a whole lot of extra work in as far as learning some of the other things that he's kind of avoided. I think he is that freakish of an athlete, and he does sort of rely on that a little bit too much.
I think you're spot on with your assessment there, Adam.
And I hate giving that example because it explains why I didn't do so well in college, but the past is the past for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So the Minnesota Vikings played the St. Louis Rams on Sunday. They came out the victors 21-18 in overtime. It was a game that found my blood boiling through most of it. I had a hard time even writing up my game review of it for the Viking Age. I was that fired up. I had to, after the game, I sat down, I drank some tea, gave some goose frabbas, and just tried to compose myself and get it all together because I was not in a mood, even though it was a win. I was not in a good mood and my mind was not in a good place. I was that upset. How about you guys?
It was not an easy game to sit through. There was just lots of stuff, lots of moments that it just, but you know what? They were able to get the win. It goes down as a W, so let's be thankful for that. And this is definitely one of those wins that you can credit to Mike Zimmer building a tough team, because boy oh boy did they ever have adversity to plow through to get the W out in this one.
I couldn't imagine the Vikings fan base if they would have lost this game.
I could tell you what they would say. They'd be off with the head of Mike Zimmer this week, even though they've been praising him the last three.
And I think that every fan or representative of the Rams on social media would be getting hate mail. Because a lot of people really disagreeing with, first of all, some of the officiating decisions, and secondly, some dirty defensive plays by the Rams. So I personally, the first one, I believe that it should have been maybe going down for the knees a little bit, maybe a late hit, but I understand that a quarterback outside of the pocket isn't protected under the quarterback rules. So I can kind of understand that, but still, when you're chopping at a quarterback's knees, that's not good. And the second play, where Teddy was giving himself up and sliding, and LaMarcus Joyner was diving for him, if you watch it in slow motion, you can see that Joyner was actually still standing completely up, while Teddy had already started his slide. So that launch just seemed completely unnecessary and made me absolutely just furious.
There's no way to say it other than you're pissed off at that moment. And it's just one of those things where that's the kind of stuff that you don't want to see in the league. I'm all about playing for hard smash mouth football, where we got the Mike Zimmer defense school, of thought out there, but it's also clean. It's like the Vikings play hard, clean football, and that's what you want to see. And that
This isn't
hit,
the WWE. You don't throw a flying forearm at someone.
yeah.
You don't watch their head bounce off the turf. It's not good sportsmanship. Even if it's legal, it's not good sportsmanship. And then a couple plays later, Linval Joseph gets called for a forearm into the chest of Nick Foles. What?
It's pretty ironic. Some of the calls there, some of the officiating that was going on was very head scratching.
Just even talking about it now is getting that blood open again, and I seriously, my whole body was just burning. I was about to just start on fire.
There were times where I legitimately wondered if this was the first day on the job for the head ref, because it seemed like there was a lot of weird calls and just lack of communication between them and missed calls and just an odd. I just don't. For as much money as the NFL makes, you'd think that they would have better officiating crews. You really would.
But let's talk about that head too, because I don't think this hit would be getting nearly as much attention. It'd be called a fluke, maybe maybe just a bad play, a poor decision on the part of the defender, if the Rams didn't have the defensive coordinator they did. Greg Williams being there, the man behind Bountygate, the guy that took Favre out.
Yeah, I was to say, Vikings fans, we have a history of Greg Williams. You go back to 2009, like you said, Adam, the Bountygate game, where you talk about games that anger me, that one is, on top of my list. Those hits they had on Favre, not only were they dirty, but I have no idea how they weren't flagged and called during that game. I'm still mystified about that.
Yes.
So if it's not for just the action on the field, it's the ties to the history. It's that individual on the sidelines. It's us Vikings fans being able to put a face to the guy that did this to our franchise in the playoffs, and now we're seeing it to the potential franchise quarterback for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
It's just enough to make your blood boil and want you to punch a hole through your TV, but you shouldn't because TVs are kind of expensive and you need them to watch football.
On top of that, I don't know about you guys, I don't like Jeff Fisher. I've never liked Jeff Fisher dating back to his time, when he was with the Titans or whatnot. I'm just not a fan of his, and so I'm not surprised that that's the kind of stuff that happens when you play, a team coached by him and Greg Williams. I'm really not.
So since we're going to do our game balls and our donkeys, do I have to give mine, or can you guys guess which one of two guys it might be?
I figured we would all go this route.
Because it's one of two guys for me.
Well, Adam, I think you should go first. I think you should have first dibs.
Well, I know someone else is taking the big man.
Linval Joseph?
It's absolutely obvious, so I'll go for the other big man that I've been giving the award to the weeks I haven't been giving it to Linval Joseph. Mike Harris, you're the man.
He's had some great stats the last couple of games.
He absolutely has. He's been an absolute beast in running the ball, making big lanes, and what astounds me is that he never seemed that great as a backup tackle at pass protection, but he is showing a side of himself at right guard that just is blowing me away. So for me, Mike Harris, there you go.
Well, I'm giving mine. I'll take the pick that you usually do. I'm giving it to Linval Joseph.
There you go.
This week. The big guy just deserves so much credit for the way he's playing. It's an incredibly high level for the Vikings. It reminds me of the old days of Kevin and Pat Williams out there on the field. Dare I say, maybe he's even a little bit more athletic and a little bit more aggressive just based on the fact that he's got Mike Zimmer out there coaching him. Guys, vote him to the Pro Bowl. Do your part. He needs to go. We need to play in the Super Bowl and not worry about the Pro Bowl, but that's beside it. But vote him in there, vote regardless. Excellent season. Excellent free agent signing by Rick Spielman as well, too.
And can you imagine when Sharif Floyd comes back?
Ooh, I know.
Oh, that's good feelings.
Well, you guys just surprised me to death. I figured Linval would get it. I was very surprised nobody picked Blair Walsh for winning the game for us second week in a row.
Great call.
But I'm not going to pick Blair. My wife would absolutely kick me in the shin. So here's a funny story I'll tell you. I'm watching the game on my computer Sunday. I was in Texas. I'm back in my home in Virginia now. And she's sitting beside me, and her phone is getting the update. Unfortunately, we're doing a little bit of online streaming, which is lagging. She finds out 10 seconds before the actual, screen catches up, and she just looks at me. She goes, "Oh God!" And you ever had that moment when 10 seconds takes 30?
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, "What? Just tell me, just tell me." And then Blair kicks the game winner. Shout out to Blair. You're my honorable mention. My game ball of the week goes to none other than Mr. Mike Zimmer. I'm not even going to talk about the balls that it took to let your defense go first in overtime and to have that supreme confidence. Did you guys see the stats before that field goal was made right before we had to go in overtime? The entire second half was punts.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is amazing. This defense is nasty.
Yeah.
And I can't put us up there with the likes of Carolina or on paper now Green Bay or Denver, but there's no reason we aren't and shouldn't be a top 5 defense. And we were 14th or 13th last year. The man is a defensive guru and a mastermind. Our defense is lights out, and coming from an offensive fan, just the fan that I am, the work that he's done there to get me rambling about it right now, let's just tell you something. So, yeah, Mike Zimmer, you get my game ball this week. You're an absolute BA, and I love the comments you made about if this were out in the street, we're going to fight. Way to take up for your quarterback.
Excellent decision.
I love that, too. I love the fact that he's standing by and he's publicly showing that much support for Teddy Bridgewater, because I think that, you have a really good talent in Teddy, and you have a head coach that the whole team and the whole fan base just really seems to love, and it's nice to see him publicly support his quarterback like that.
I loved it. I loved every second of it. Flip side to that, if you guys don't mind, I'm probably going to steal one or both of your donkey, but LaMarcus Joyner, You have pissed me off on an astronomical level this week. And what I was going to say earlier, but finally I decided to step back and not interrupt you like I always do. A lot of fans probably noticed that on the show. If you've watched football in the last 5 years, you can see how much has changed. 6 years if you count the 2009 game. Let's go back to the 2009 NFC Championship game. Favre was damn near crippled when he got done with that game and taking a lot of hits, just a lot of abuse on the quarterback. We have progressed so much. And I actually saw a meme about it the other day. It's really messed up, but it was kind of accurate. You can beat a woman is what the meme was, but don't you dare hit the quarterback. That's how much they focus on protecting him. If you play in the NFL right now and you are on the defensive side of the ball, you absolutely know the quarterbacks get a lot of love and they're going to protect them. So you get my donkey this week for trying to play it cool after the game too. Oh, I know Teddy. My parents know.
That
his
was
parents.
a BS comment.
Don't
I
try-
hate that shit.
Don't try to.
He's
try
not
to
getting invited to Thanksgiving
No.
dinner.
Yeah, for all of you guys that didn't hear, I don't know if we put it on the page or not, but LaMarcus Joyner says, I would never do anything like that to Teddy. My parents know his parents, where I think they might be from the same hometown or something like that. Total BS. You're just trying to pull something out of your butt to try to look good on social media and the public eye. That was clearly, as clear as day, an intentional hit, while Teddy his shoulder blades were almost on the ground. He doesn't get into a slide any more than he already was. So
Now, by the time he launched, Teddy was already sliding.
Oh, sorry, I'm rambling now. It got me fired up again. I was very pissed after I saw
This
that.
is a Purple People podcast first, 177 episodes in. I don't think we have ever done this before, and we'll probably never do it again, that two of us label a donkey from the other team. Because I am also going to give my donkey award to LaMarcus Joyner for that just awful hit that he put on Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, it's one of those dumb things where and I realize that it's easier to look at something in slow motion and second guess than what it is when you're going full speed. So you want to give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But at the same time, man, that was a scary moment to see Teddy snap his head back against the ground like that. And he was out. 100%. He looked out when he hit the field. And
the first time I watched it, I didn't see his head bounce off the ground. So I thought that Teddy was doing like he does sometimes on the other plays, kind of fakes it a little bit until he gets the flag and gets back up. He's done it.
Well, a lot of quarterbacks do that.
And I sat there and watched him, and he didn't bounce up.
God.
I was like, oh, poop.
That's a scary moment because you don't know. It could be, you don't want to make light of a concussion, but it could have been a lot worse. It really could have been.
Now, anytime you got head, neck damage, that's scary stuff right there.
Especially, Teddy just had a birthday. He just turned, 23, Adam?
23 years old, yeah.
And still, you got to remember how young some of these players are in the NFL. So you don't want anyone at the age of 23 to have a serious injury around the head and neck.
So you guys are going to make me get the hate mail.
Yep, go for it.
My donkey of the week is Harrison Smith.
Ooh.
He was invisible the entire game. There was one play where he got a hit on the quarterback, wasn't able to take him down. He busted through the backfield, tried to make a play, whiffed. Overall, I wasn't that impressed with his play. He was able to stay in his position and maintain direction in the secondary, but it wasn't the kind of Harrison Smith game that we've come to expect from him. And personally, although I could have gone the easy way out, like you guys, and said, Greg Williams, here you go. But I had to go with a player on the Vikings. I had to pick a guy that really disappointed me, and it was between Harrison Smith and Mike Wallace, and I've thrown way enough at Mike Wallace that fans of the show know that I'm fed up with Mike Wallace. When I look at the stats, 1 catch on 6 targets, Mike Wallace.
4 yards. It's a 4-yard catch. Whoa, that's a lot of money for 4 yards of offense.
To catch 1 of 6 passes.
You know what's crazy? I won't take the negative spotlight off of Mike Wallace, but I can't. I'm sure it's not the first, but I can guarantee you've never had more than 3 or 4 donkeys go to Harrison Smith. That was very, very shocking.
Ballsy.
No, that you do not hear that name. That's one that when we're giving away donkeys, I don't think I've ever said it.
I'm trying to remember. I
But
don't think
that's
I've
why
ever
to me it
gave
was
one out to
shocking.
Harrison Smith before. I don't remember precisely.
Well, I
I
hope to see him bounce back against
You
Oakland
know
next
what,
week.
guys? I almost wanted to do the shocking thing and say Adrian Peterson just for the fumbles.
Oh
You
yeah,
know
those
that?
fumbles were rough.
Because we've had that bite us in the butt before in the NFC Championship game, and guess what? They weren't fumbles that we recovered. Right now, I feel like, okay, he's fumbling the ball, the Vikings are landing back on top of it, so fans are not really making that big of a deal of it, but I had really sincerely thought that we were past these problems with Adrian Peterson. I don't know if it's a matter of him looking really hard to make the big play instead when he should just be worried about ball security. So I hope that Mike Zimmer will have a conversation with him if he has not already and tell him to get back to the fundamentals and make sure that it is proper ball security from Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, it's been a struggle for him holding onto the ball, getting things done
Mm-hmm.
that way. Really, it's been quite disappointing how he's been able to handle those fumbles. The fact he's been able to get back on a couple of them is real nice. He's had some other players could bail him out by hopping on the
Mm-hmm.
ball.
I just
But
got this feeling, and I even hate to say it, that, because we're Vikings fans, but we've been down this road before where you can play so incredibly well over the course of a season and then get down to one game and all of a sudden you have, like, the Peterson fumbling issue comes up and it costs you a season. So
always scary to see that ball
I know,
bouncing
so
on the
I
ground.
really hope that they are able to hammer into him and get it corrected.
Now, Peterson was able to outrush Todd Gurley in this game, 125 yards to 89. Both found the end zone,
One
though.
time.
Adrian Peterson had a nice run into the end zone, untouched. And who was the big block at the end of that play?
Oh, I don't remember.
Mike
Was it
Harris.
Mike Harris? I like me some Mike Harris, don't you?
Oh, I love watching Mike Harris. I
Mm-hmm.
do. But at quarterback, we had Nick Foles come out 18 for 33. Not a good showing from their quarterback. Averaged only 5.1 yards per completion. They were trying a lot of short passes. Since the since Foles wasn't having a lot of time to get passes off, he was getting pressured, and you could see it from the numbers that he just wasn't able to complete things down the field. And that's not because there weren't things open every
Mm-hmm.
once in a while. There were some mistakes in the Vikings defense that could have been capitalized on, but Nick Foles was unable. So caught a pretty big break there. Teddy Bridgewater, 13 for 21, 144 yards, averaged 6.9 yards per catch. He did throw the one interception. Teddy, no touchdown in the game before leaving with a
Mm-hmm.
concussion. Sean Hill came in, went 2 for 6 for 15
That was
yards.
scary.
And honestly, the way the offense looked with Sean Hill in there was not reassuring.
No, I was watching the game with my dad. When Teddy got knocked out, he goes, "Who's the backup?" And I go, "Well, that's Sean Hill." And he was like, "Oh, remember back to preseason?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, the Vikings should be fine with Sean Hill." And I, thought so too. That was the hope, but oh boy, it really got stagnant after Teddy left. And I,
It
you
sure
could
did.
have given a donkey award to Sean Hill if you really wanted. I
Yeah.
didn't because there was such a low body of work, really, that he had in that game.
Do you know what Sean Hill's QBR
What?
was? 1.7.
No kidding.
Dear God.
His quarterback rating, 42.4. Not good.
No, that is not good at all. But at the end of the day, they were able to get down with the game-winning field goal. So they were able to
Very
squeeze
true.
just enough out. But boy, oh boy, you really would hope that with a veteran like Sean Hill, he'd be able to step in and provide more offense than that.
Right. And when I was talking about Teddy's stats, I didn't include the rushing touchdown in there, and I also didn't include the 2-point conversion.
I was just gonna say, like, I was a little confused on that. I was like, was that last week or this week? No, it was this week. Gutsy moved to go for 2 there, which ended up paying off.
Definitely did.
If I could add, I wanted to say something. By the way, I love technology. Having internet problems, you jump on your phone, you're back in the conversation, and nobody knows. I wanted to say I agreed a lot with what I heard on NFL Network, and it was very, very nice to hear. You got 3 options, kind of like we have. You can try to contain Teddy, you can try to contain Diggs, or you can try to contain AP. Most of the time, if you do stuff well, you can get 2, but there's going to be a third that's left open. You said Nick Foles didn't have a good outing, and how bad does that have to make you feel when you're Nick Foles and you're the heart of the offense? Because if you look at what we did, we took their 2 biggest playmakers and we let them have very, very average days. And I don't know if you guys know that now. I would definitely go back and redo the draft when Patterson came to our team now, knowing what we know. But Tavon Austin is a speedy little guy. And if there's ever another Percy Harvin out there, I don't think it was Cordero. I think it's Tavon Austin minus the injuries. But I wanted to piggyback on that, because I did get dropped earlier. All the hype that came in this week made me very, very, very nervous, because if you've watched Todd Gurley the last 4 weeks, looks like nobody knows how to stop him. But I thought we did an excellent job, and he didn't get to break one out like he's been doing the last couple of games.
No, Gurley's longest run this game was 16 yards.
Yeah, podcast fans will remember that, Todd Gurley was one of my guys that I had wanted the Vikings to draft. And
yeah.
I was really looking forward to watching Todd Gurley play against this defense. And I think he is a great back with a bright future in this league. With that said, of course, I love the fact that they were able to hold him to 89 yards. I think that is really good. They did a good job containing Todd Gurley.
Absolutely.
Is he, without pulling up the schedule, he's probably the best back that we face for the rest of this season, right?
I don't know, Devonta Freeman's having a huge game. You got Marshawn Lynch, Chris Johnson.
Yeah, so you still do got some heavy hitters coming up, but
Vikings could luck out next week and might not have the Raiders starting running back there, Latavius Murray. And I say lucked out, but I do want him to be healthy, and I would love to see the Vikings beat the Raiders at full health. But sometimes it's just not a possibility in the NFL. So I'm not trying to praise injuries or anything like that. I just see that it's a possibility that he might not be active because that injury may hold him out. All right, as far as receivers go, the best Vikings receiver had only 42 yards in this game. Stephon Diggs targeted 5 times, caught 3 of them. When you go past that, only Kyle Rudolph with 30 yards, caught all the targets thrown to him, and Charles Johnson had 1 catch for 25 yards. Otherwise, it's just a lot of nickel and diamond right there.
Teddy spreading the ball out, kind of doing what he does. Like you said, lots of guys with 1 or 2 receptions for some yardage that's up there. I still feel like we're waiting for this offense to really click. Don't you guys kind of get that same feeling a little bit? Like, you're getting...
Yes, it's 110%.
I'm seeing efficiency. I'm seeing first downs picked up easily through the air or on the ground on third downs. But where the really big problem is the ball's being moved down the field. Special teams giving the offense a pretty good position. The problem is that the Vikings aren't able to finish these drives with touchdowns.
Precisely. And
thank God Blair's having a bounce back from the struggles earlier in the year. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting any points. And that's
what's nice is that Vikings fans, and myself included, got all worried during the preseason when these kicks were off the mark. But as soon as the regular season started, he missed a couple more, and then he seemed to find his groove. So fingers crossed on that
real
one.
quick on Blair, I guess I had heard or read somewhere that he spent the Vikings bye week just continually kicking footballs to get this over with. So
Heard the same
A
thing.
lot of work that went on behind the scenes with Blair Walsh, so definitely deserves accolades for him getting back to where he's at. Um,
I did hear that every Wednesday he goes to
hmm,
TCF Bank Stadium and
Yes,
just
that's
kicks
exactly
football.
what I was going to say. Every Wednesday, and then I know in the off week that you were mentioning, Kyle, what the guy said Sunday, the
yep.
announcer said he went back to Georgia since he was a Georgia kid, and I'm not sure if he went to UGA or Georgia Tech or whoever, but definitely went back to Georgia on a bye week that we had a couple weeks ago, and that's when he was doing all his kicking. I think that's amazing. I think that shows that's the kind of stuff that a guy like him, and a guy like Teddy will do on the off week or in the off season.
Mhm.
Definitely paid off.
All right, defensive side of the ball. Chad Greenway, Linval Joseph, both 10 tackles apiece. Chad had 8 solo, Linval 7. Linval also added 3 tackles for a loss, 2 quarterback hits, and half a sack.
It helps real quick with Chad. I know we talked about him earlier in the show, but the smart thing that Mike Zimmer does with veterans like Chad Greenway is by not playing them so much, they're fresh for the end of games where they can go in and they can make big plays. Or, when you have an injury and you've got someone like Chad Greenway who can step in and he's a veteran and he really knows the defense and what he's supposed to do, he's not beat up from however X many amount of games we've played so far this season. He's actually still kind of fresh, and so he can come in and he can play for a high level for this team, and that's
Yeah, there have been a couple games here where he's only
a
played
couple
a
snaps.
handful
Yeah.
to like 17 or so snaps on the defensive side of the ball because the Vikings have been in nickel most of the time. Well, now Chad Greenway comes in this game, and before the game, Mike Zimmer told him, he said, I don't know, you might have to play quite a bit in this game. Do you think you'd be able to? And Chad Greenway said, yep, I'll do whatever's
Yeah, and
needed.
I love that attitude from Chad. There's so many veterans who they don't understand that, they're at the tail end of their career, and they want to keep playing, which is admirable, but they still want to play like they're in the prime of their career, and I don't know, I just love the fact that Chad Greenway accepts his role with the team.
And let's have a little bit of fun here. Who do you think led the Vikings with the most passes defensed?
Trey Waynes?
He did.
Mm-hmm.
If
2
there's
passes
something that should
defensed
make you
for-
grin, that stat is what should make you grin for the day.
Waynes did get called for one play where he did shove the wide receiver a bit before the ball got there. And yeah, that's something that you could probably get away with a little bit on the college level. And I do see that Trey Waynes has been working on his technique. And every once in a while, we're going to see slips like that. We saw it with Xavier Rhodes. I still have full faith that Trey Waynes will be able to convert his style over to the NFL style with still being physical and be an effective cornerback for the Vikings in the future. In the meantime, you still have Terrence Newman, who's going through the concussion protocol. If he gets healthy, we're going to see him start next week. Otherwise, we might see a little bit more of a healthy dose of Trey Waynes. Anthony Barr, 6 tackles, 1 pass defensed, 1 hit on the quarterback. Everson Griffin got to hit the quarterback twice, 1 tackle for a loss. Overall, this Vikings defense is just a well-oiled machine. And when one part gets injured, another part goes in. It's been absolutely amazing to watch this defense function. Because when you talk about a team like the St. Louis Rams, their offense is severely underrated. They have weapons. They're dynamic. With the emergence of Gurley into the lineup, this is a team that could rack up some points on people. And the Minnesota Vikings knew exactly what to do. They took away the deep stuff, they bottled up the run, and they made the Rams beat them with the short stuff. And since the Vikings are such solid tacklers, they didn't give up big plays from that spot, and that is what is important.
It's very important to point out, Adam, like you said, is that every team has the next man up mentality, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it works for every team, because we have been a part of some Minnesota Vikings teams where next man up is just absolutely horrible and it kills the season.
Yes.
It's refreshing that when you never want to have anyone get hurt. You never want to see that. Unfortunately, it's part of the game and it's going to happen. When we have had injuries, Dude, we've had guys who have stepped up and stepped in and played really well for this team.
Yeah. Guys you wouldn't expect to contribute either. Edmund Robinson, Daniil Hunter. These are guys that casual fans have probably never heard of, but they're able to step in the game and get things
TJ
done.
Clemmings is not supposed to be playing right now. And guess
No,
what?
he's not.
TJ Clemmings is playing pretty darn good football for the Minnesota Vikings.
Joe Berger isn't supposed to be playing.
Joe Berger is playing pretty darn good football for Minnesota.
I still can't help loving Joe Berger, knowing that he played his college football about a half an hour away from me. I still love that. Special teams, Marcus Sherrills had a nice 26-yard return in overtime to help set up that Blair Walsh field goal, so that was pretty nice. Cordero Patterson had a 42-yard return.
And a 21-yard return.
Yeah, brought it out past
and that is
the
a
20.
1-yard gain.
Like I said, it's a game of inches. And one time back there, Marcus Sherrills took a kick return for 21 yards. Do it, Sherrills.
That I was a little confused.
Earning that paycheck.
I was a little confused with that one, actually.
I think we all
But you know
were.
what, though? I said that, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that sounds stupid, because Cordero hasn't really done jack on returning footballs for quite a while now, honestly, like 2 years. And Marcus Sherrills, on the other hand, has. So maybe it does make sense that you would trust Marcus Sherrills in that situation, right?
The Vikings very rarely put two return men
Yeah.
back there. So that was kind of odd in my book.
I don't know. I kind of like it now that we were talking about it. I think it's kind of smart.
Maybe it'll just confuse Cordero some more.
You want a bad sign in this game, Jeff Locke had to punt 8 times. That's not good.
Now, like I said, Vikings offense, just over the course of the game, a little stagnant, Adam.
Yeah, it was rough. But the Rams are one of the better defenses in the league. They have that intimidating front. They have capable cornerbacks. They've got people that can get it done. And while we're at it, let's talk about one of the most confusing things from this game. The Rams don't have faith in their kicker to make an extra point. So they send out the team to go for 2, and they don't
Jeff
get
Fisher, ladies and gentlemen, he's an idiot.
Later on, they're in a spot where they need to kick a 61-yard field goal, and they line them up. What?
Again, Jeff Fisher, he's an idiot.
What? Remember when T.O. kicked an extra point and
Chad Ochocinco.
Big offensive
Remember
line?
that? Chad Ochocinco.
That was it. Yeah. I mean, I know it's moved out quite a bit since then, but I'm sure there are still some other players that can boot the ball. And Greg Zuerlein proved that he had it in him. I mean, he kicked a 61-yarder. I just do not understand that decision. I'm glad they didn't kick the extra point, because that would have really...
It changed the...
Well, then the Vikings wouldn't have gone for 2.
It changed the whole dynamic of the game. It really did.
It gave it a weird feel.
Yeah, that too.
Sure
Weird
did.
feels.
Sure did. So next week, Minnesota's traveling to Oakland to take on the Raiders. This is one of those rare games that I hate to be that jinxie guy. The Vikings haven't won a game that isn't played at noon.
Uh-oh.
This game, 3 p.m.
We have another streak.
Not only that, I was telling Adam today, just chit-chatting around. I don't know if you saw it, Kyle, but I don't know if it was CBS. I think it was CBS. I really don't care at this point. They're making their
I like how honest you were with that one. Like, I don't...
It's just so irritating. So irritating, the stupid reasons why they pick people to win games. Like, well, Teddy, remember when we said Teddy has bad knees? His bad knees are going to get him in trouble in Oakland. Like, this is how it is to me. They didn't pick us to win in Soldier Field because we're not good on the road. And we go in and win for the first... Oh, they haven't won there since 2007. Well, guess what we did this year? I'm not saying it's going to happen because I cannot predict the future. However, we have not won in Oakland since 1996. That was the reason. All the Vikings are struggling on the road. We're even on the road this year, and we won 2 road games back-to-back in the division. So I was very irritated with how that was presented today. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to make this my bold statement because I have something for that in a little bit. But I think this is one of the top 2 most crucial games coming up in this last, the second part of the season. I think this is a make or break. I can't tell you the last time the Vikings went on a 5-game winning streak. I think it was 2009 because we started 6-0, but it's been a long time since we won that many football games in a row.
Yeah. Sure has. And you know that the whole comparison to this game is going to be Teddy Bridgewater versus
Or
Derek
David
Carr.
Carr. We're not sure which. I'm not.
We are sure.
I don't know.
You're not. You keep using the wrong name. But we're also going to see some more comparison. We're going to see Amari Cooper stepping up against whatever wide receiver the Vikings decide to make their man this game.
Come on, Diggs. Come on, Adam. Don't shortchange Diggsy.
He wasn't the most targeted player last week.
It's how the game dictates it.
You know what scares me about this? Not only is Khalil Mack, who I think if we would have had the 5th pick a couple of years ago, we would have taken him over Anthony Barr. I think anybody had him as the top linebacker. Has anybody brought up Charles Woodson yet? Holy hell, that guy's having a year.
Oh yeah, he is talked about quite often on the NFL's channels. He's an Iron Man. He sure is.
I think, honestly, if you guys want my prediction, I'm not going to, well, I kind of flirted with it just now, but I'll get into it later. The key in the winning formula this week, Adrian Peterson's going to need to go off. I don't like Teddy throwing the ball around back there. The guy's getting interceptions left and right. Not Teddy, but Charles Woodson, like I mentioned. And I know they have a pretty good defense built over there, but I want to see another quiet passing game, and I want to see AP just getting fed nonstop. I think that's the key in the winning formula to another 3-point, 7-point game that we squeak out. I think that's the best way that we can win this coming up Sunday.
4 of the next 5 Vikings games are against top 10 defenses.
There is not an easy game left on the rest of our schedule.
Toughest schedule remaining. It said another thing I saw the other day. I got to watch a lot of the games Sunday. Toughest remaining schedule in the NFL. We got it.
Well, to be fair, there were supposed to be some softballs early on in the season.
I think the only game that we're looking at right now, if I can remember off the top of my head, the only game coming up with a losing team or 500 or less is Chicago.
Yeah. I don't know the current record for the Giants, so I don't know that one. But yeah, the Bears have not been good, but they just pulled out a victory over the Chargers. Mm-hmm. And I had Packer fans saying how bad the Chargers were for getting beat by the Bears, and I was like, the Chargers pushed the Packers to the limits as well, remember?
They were talking crap about us for losing to Denver, and they get blown out by Denver, and we lose it by 3 with, 40 seconds left? Anyways, I digress.
Division's wide open right now. The Vikings right now would have the tiebreaker by the division rule, just because the Packers haven't played their division games yet, haven't had the opportunity to win them. But right now the Vikings are in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny. They need to win these games. And right now Oakland is the next team on the list. Head coach Jack Del Rio, which I know that you're a big fan of, Mr. West.
You betcha. I like Jack Del Rio, also former Minnesota Viking. Played for us.
Absolutely.
Do you know what jersey number?
69?
55. So it was 55.
Touche.
I didn't know, so I just threw a number out there.
You were in the vicinity.
No, it wasn't. That's an offensive lineman number. Come on. Or defensive line, I guess. Depends on which side, but still, it's a lineman number. So what are your biggest concerns going into Oakland? For me, covering Amari Cooper is going to be the big part of this game. Him and Carr have this connection that just seems to be there in a way that it isn't between Bridgewater and Wallace. I don't know how these connections develop, if it's natural, if it's something they work on. But whatever those two guys have, I want to see some of that in Minnesota. We see some of it with Stephon Diggs, but we need to see it on a more consistent basis.
He's just super talented. I think that's what it is. I'm talking about Cooper. I like Carr He's having way better year now than he was last year. But I think if you look at talent-wise, easily Amari Cooper, best receiver in this class, and he's just on a different level than the other guys that got taken out of the draft this year.
I don't know if you guys are on Twitter, but if you follow Janoris Jenkins, you saw something pretty fun following the Rams game. He posted up a picture of the Vikings stat lines. He circled Stephon Diggs, and he gave his typical response about Clamp Nation, Clamp City, and his followers didn't like it a whole lot. He's like, "Oh, cool! So you were able to hold Diggs some yards. We still lost."
It's a loser's mentality right there, folks.
And that, I think, is the difference between the Rams and the Vikings. You wouldn't see a Vikings player bragging on social media about his own personal achievements.
Mike Zimmer does not care about personal stats.
No.
He does not want to hear about it. Media will ask him, he does not care. And he preaches that with his players. Like, don't worry about it.
And you know how many passes Janoris Jenkins defended?
I don't know. I really don't.
1.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Clamp it, I guess.
Yeah. It is a shift in mentality, too, because in previous years, we got, and as fans, I'm sure we got caught up in it more than players, but it was really all about Jared Allen, trying to set records for number of sacks. And Jared Allen, boy, he sure did put up a hell of a lot of numbers, but what did it really get him?
The Vikings defense was set up in a way where they had plans for everybody except Jared Allen, and Jared Allen went and did his own thing.
Pretty much.
And I wish I was kidding.
You're not.
No, you're not, and I remember that season because we were terrible. 3-13, terrible.
But we were chasing that record as fans. Like, that was what
not
we
only
had.
not only that, I remember that game like no tomorrow. We were in Minnesota, we were playing the Bears. I'm pretty sure we lost, and they were like, "Well, we're already going to beat you. You're already sucking horribly this year. Now we're going to hold you. We're going to step on your head while you're drowning. You're not getting this record." They double teamed him the whole game.
Yep.
The entire game. But that was the game plan and the mentality that we had.
And I love Jared Allen, by the way. I'm not knocking the guy.
Absolutely.
He's one of my favorite, 2 or 3 Minnesota Vikings of all time. But it's a nice... I think the way that the team is going now is the correct direction. It's what championship teams are built upon.
And if you are one of the people out there after the Salute to Service merchandise, good luck. Because trying to find that stuff online is absolutely impossible. If you got a guy that works at a store that can hook you up, that's the way to do it. But that stuff is in such high demand right now that it is just impossible to find.
I feel like maybe there's kind of a positive built into that, right?
I say that because of how much that Jared Allen does for the Wounded Warrior stuff and things like that. That's what made me think of that. Because he is a great man in the community. He's accomplished a lot. He was a great player for the Vikings for so long. And it is, the month with the salute to the troops. And we got the big holiday coming up, which I believe the podcast will come out for that,
It'll be up tomorrow.
There you go. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, or technically right now, so.
It's probably Veterans Day while you guys are listening to this.
If you listen to it on day one, oh yeah. So I guess that's what you can look forward to in the Raiders game. We got off subject, but we're going to go anyway. It's time for a little bit of an update on the Yahoo Survival League. We had 3 incorrect answers this week. Mexa Norse, Purple Horn Power, and Purple for Life, all with incorrect guesses. 2 New Orleans picks, 1 San Diego. Sadly, Purple for Life was eliminated.
Oh, I'm sorry.
See, it's sad, but it's the way it's got to go. That leaves us with only 10 teams remaining. 10 teams left for that Vikings jersey. So good luck to everyone still in there. We only got 3 players left with 1 strike left. We got Bids Purple, we got Eric 19, Gophers Pride. Those are the 3 with 1 strike. Our 2 strike teams, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Cool Viking 69, Frank Ducks All Stars, JC's Picks, Matthew X. Kyle, Mexanorse, and Purple Horn Power are the other guys that are left with 2 strikes, 1 wrong pick from elimination, so be careful, guys.
Mm-hmm. Choose wisely.
And remember, it keeps getting harder. You can't pick a team twice.
You could try, but it won't work.
Yeah, you can click that button all you want. It's not going to let you.
Maybe on 1001 clicks it'll work.
Nope.
You try it. You try it and let us know at Purple People Pod on Twitter.
Put in the Konami code on your keyboard, and then
Konami code.
It'll unlock it. All right, so I don't think we did a social media question this week.
We forgot we were horrible, but we have one coming up for next week.
Sure do. Read it off for them.
We've reached the Vikings midseason, and they are 6-2. So how do you feel the team has done to this point, and where do they need to improve? Leave us your feedback over on Facebook. I'll get it posted up. You can tweet us at Twitter as well, too. Let us know, and we will read your answers next week, folks.
Absolutely. We absolutely will.
And I think Kyle Smith is going to close us out with a bold statement.
Sounds like he's swigging some Tennessee whiskey over there.
That is a great reference. I would love to go on a rant about that guy, but I'm not going to. Chris Stapleton for you guys. That's all I'm going to say. Do some musical research on YouTube. I'm looking at Adrian Peterson's career stats. Do you guys have any idea where he's at yardage-wise without Googling anything?
If I hadn't just wrote an article, I wouldn't be ballpark, but I got a pretty good
Adrian's
idea.
yardage?
Okay.
748.
No. For career stats. You're very close for the season.
Then I have no
career
clue.
stats, I couldn't.
Anybody want to take an educated
I'm bad
guess?
at math. No, I will not take an educated guess because it won't be educated.
Adrian Peterson, our beloved running back, the machine, is at 10,948 yards. This is not my bold statement, however, let's go to the Oakland Raiders this Sunday. Adrian Peterson's going to hit 11,000 rushing yards, which is amazing. But I'm looking at the touchdowns. Remember how I said earlier we need a winning formula this Sunday? I think it's going to need to carry into it. Some of you guys can take a cheap shot at me. This is a very generic statement, and I do not care because I'm sticking by it. Up until this point, like I said, if the season was halfway over, we would be in the playoffs. But let's look at Teddy for 2 seconds. Teddy's not having as good of a year as last year. Very identical numbers. I was hoping he would have improved stats. That's where you key in Adrian Peterson. He is 10 touchdowns away from having 100 in his career. I am a firm believer that he will get to that by the end of this year within the next 8 games. You know what that means? Feed the beast. Feed the beast, feed the beast. Very generic, but I'm going to keep it focused on Sunday and go forward each and every week. I might even hit this again later on in the season, but the key to success, I want to see AP get 25, 30 touches Sunday. I think with Mr. Woodson having a great game, don't give him the chance. I know that's kind of a pansy way to go out about it, but I don't want to give him a chance to pick Teddy off because Teddy's not really having the best year so far with that. And I don't know. Did you guys see Adrian Sunday after we went times? Did you see those two? My 2 favorite runs from Sunday. We had to get down the field, and he ran for like 23 and 25 back to back. Just ran angry. I think you can see that again. I think we're going to see that a lot Sunday. So that's my bold statement. Call it generic, but I'm sticking to it.
I find that to be very bold, actually, since Oakland currently has the number 8 rush defense in the NFL, only allowing 96.9 rushing yards per game, have only let teams get in the end zone 5 times on the ground. This is a very, very stout defense right here. Only 44 first downs rushing.
Another very, very good matchup of similar teams. The only standout would be, I think, Amari and Derek Carr are a little bit more in tune than Mr. Bridgewater and Mr. Diggs, but very, very much another tale of very, very good defenses going to battle Sunday. I hate that we're on the road. I hate it, but you know what? The last 2 times we were on the road, it worked out pretty well, so I'm hoping we can carry that over And
Late afternoon game, not good.
not good, not good. But if we do this 5-game winning streak, guys, it's been 6 years since that's happened. Keep that in mind.
With that, that's all I have this week. Do you guys got anything else?
I'll do it for Kyle West. You guys check out Kyle West's photography page, and I'll let you cue that in when I get done flapping my gums. He's trying to get his hobby out to make a little cash. He does very, very good work, and he even does some custom stuff. I know some of the stuff that he does, you can get printed on numerous things. We've talked about it before.
I bet you he'd even take requests.
I would totally take requests.
There you go. He's kind of a night owl sometimes too. I feel like we're doing a dating thing now. He likes to go out at night, long walks on the beach.
Long walks on the beach.
But yes,
coladas.
Night Owl, I know I saw some of the stuff he did at night was really, really cool, but he also does Vikings-related stuff. He was at training camp, I believe, earlier this year. So he has some training camp photos, one of a kind. So check his stuff out. What's the name of your website if I wanted to find it?
You can find me at KyleWestPhotography.com. It's pretty easy to do. Don't you like that URL? I do. That's why I bought it.
That is good stuff.
But yeah, I will do custom work, or I will try to do custom work. It doesn't even have to be Vikings-related. It can be whatevs, whatever you want.
It could be your pet Fluffy.
It could be your pet Fluffy. I will sure give it a try.
Yeah. And if you feel up to supporting me a little bit more, you can go over to the Viking Age, check out my work there. I'm also at undeadwalking.com. You can read up on everything The Walking Dead. And there was a pretty big announcement recently regarding the casting of a major upcoming character, so you may want to check that out.
I seen it. It was really big.
I'm going to go ahead and take the cliche route. This is nothing for me because I've had a lot of changes this year, and I believe that change is the thing that makes evolution keep on going. So I'm not going to take any credit for myself. You guys know my job title and status. I want to give a shout out to 2 people because it's Veterans Day, and I love them very, very much. And first, I wanted to say I was in El Paso for about a month doing some training. My dog, my military working dog, she's fan-freaking-tastic. She actually, I give her all the credit in the world, helped me get awarded while I was there during this time. Opie, my little 49 pounds of fury, my little pocket rocket that I call her. I'm going to give a shout out to my current favorite working dog, even though I do have a retired one at home. And my wife is still in. She's been in for 5 years. So, Jordan, you are a great role model for all the women out there and all the little girls walking up. And I want to say thank you for all the selflessness that you have, not only to my beautiful wife, but to all the people past and present, and even people that are enlisted right now in the delay program where you're going in for doing the military thing. I'm going to be biased because I've been in for a couple of years now, but it takes a special breed of people to do that. And I want to say thank you to all of them, to the less than 1% of the whole entire country that does this crazy job that it's still kind of baffling sometimes that you think, man, I woke up and decided I wanted to voluntarily do this. So thank you to all the veterans out there.
Absolutely. And with that, we'd like to thank you guys for listening as well. You can head on over to Facebook, check us out. We're at Purple People Pod on the Twitter machine. And stay classy, Minnesota.